Hey my friends, welcome back to a new video today. I want to give you some updates for the present energy. I've seen in comments many people are feeling this interesting, some people would describe it as weird type of energy, like I feel a little bit differently, like I feel maybe a little bit shaky, or I may feel like during my dream time I'm having more of this vivid and sometimes negative type of dreams. And negative are not bad ones. Those are the ones that trigger us, that reawaken within us some fear and anxiety and negative emotions. And many people may be wondering right now why these things are happening. It's not happening to everyone. Like how I'm experiencing this time is I feel really creative. Like I could create all day long. Yesterday I went to sleep a bit later because I was writing for such a long time. I've fallen into this flow state of writing, and that's how I'm experiencing this energy right now. So what's happening, Sun is having many solar flares, and these solar flares are really strong. And when we're talking about the Sun, we shouldn't talk just about the physical being, the physical star, or a being of light. We're also talking about the spirit, the force of it. In ancient mystical teachings, it was always discussed more like the spiritual or the spirit within it that gives life to everything, right? So when we're talking about the solar flares, we're talking about the spiritual activities that are happening, the spiritual purification, as we're often talking like that. And it affects life on this planet. It affects all of the planets. And how we experience it, it intensifies purification. It intensifies cleansing process. So for example, if there's a lot of negative subconscious thoughts present within you, you may have more intense, vivid dreams and nightmares during that time. Not because there's a force that is, punishing you, but to remind you of your subconscious programming. So we'll talk a little bit more about this today, and we'll talk a little bit more about many other things, like how to cope with that and how to actually use this energy for creative process and eventually creative transformation, how I'm using it. So as I mentioned, I feel really creative these days, and I just feel happy to be alive and to use this energy. And I want to introduce you into this process, as we're often talking about this. So first of all, we have really strong solar flares, and you may feel it. Firstly, you may feel a bit tired because of that, or you may feel more enthusiastic because of that. This is light energy. Everything is made out of light. Our DNA is made out of light. But more it gets closed down due to negative emotions that may make us feel like we need to protect ourselves, more DNA will close itself down. And as it is closing itself down, it starts emanating less and less light, and it becomes more and more matter. So in other words, it starts vibrating in a slower frequency, so it becomes more matter and less energy. And why it is important, when we close ourselves down, what comes from external becomes more painful because we are shielding ourselves from it. In other words, it's like being afraid of anything that is external, even if it's something good. And it's quite natural for many of us, if we are afraid, even when good news come to us, we are afraid of them. We are scared. Oh, what if it's actually a scam? What if it's actually something dark that is presenting to us like being positive? And we are always afraid and looking to everything through a lens of scarcity. But once we open ourselves up to more gratitude, to more love, to more appreciation through certain inner work and certain practices that make us more stable, like two important virtues we've been talking in two videos before, right? The virtue of intellect and the virtue of character. We've been talking about empowering ourselves with certain philosophical understanding that is eternal, that is timeless, that can help us to experience this life in a full light, in its gifts that life is offering to us. And then the virtue or virtues of character, when we learn to be generous and moderate, which means that we learn to work out of generosity, right? We don't do stuff because we want to get something in return. We want to do stuff because we have a great joy at doing that. We want to help others not because we want to receive something in return, but because we want others to feel better, right? This is generosity. But moderation is doing enough of it, not too much of it, not too little of it. And for that, we have to have a sense of boundaries. We have to have a sense of self-awareness, how much capacity we have to give, to talk, to hang with, and so on, right? This is moderation. And it is really important, especially when it comes to these intense energies. These are two really important aspects we have to become well trained at. Firstly, having the right philosophy. So we are not closed down when we're experiencing these intense energies. We don't say, oh, I'm, something negative is happening because I'm having this nightmares, or because I'm feeling more tired, or because people around me are more toxic, or whatever. It's not like that. We need to firstly learn to look at life from a standpoint that is empowering to us. Like when I was studying some Tibetan Buddhist traditions, I've noticed that their philosophy is really beautiful. They look on life like everything is perfect as it is. And why it is empowering? Because they are not complaining over the things. They actually see divine in everything. And in the past, it was for me really hard to understand this concept. But later, when I've started practicing, seeing divine in everything, seeing everything as perfect as it is, I've noticed, my natural mechanism starts complaining and judging others. But as soon as I catch myself and I ask myself, what if it actually is perfect? And it is teaching me something I couldn't recognize before when I was judging scenarios. When I started to look at everything as it is perfect as it is, I've actually recognized, I'm not wasting my energy anymore. Actually, I can learn here something from my own choices. I can learn here something from my own reactions. And it is powerful. What happens? We open up our hearts. That's what happens. When you start looking at everything as it is perfect as it is, everything happened as it's supposed to happen. You open up your heart because you ask yourself, oh, what are you teaching me right now? What are you teaching me? And when you open up to light, your DNA opens up and you start appreciating things. Isn't it that gratitude is an emotion for receiving? When you receive something, you're grateful, right? When you start practicing more gratitude, you open up, your DNA opens up. There's a great book, The Field, in which you can find a lot of science behind light and energy and frequencies, vibration. And there's a lot of science behind human DNA and how it emanates light and how it starts emanating more light when you level up your emotional expression. When you raise your emotional energy, it's really powerful. And that's why you are noticing right now that there's a rise of many positive energy in many individuals. Like, depends of where you're looking at. But if you're finding great teachers for yourself, great mentors, you will notice that more and more people are opening up to this. And why it is important? In the future, sun will be emanating more and more of these solar flares. There will be more of these solar storms. In science, they're called as geomagnetic storms. that are helping to raise the frequency of the planets. And because everything affects everything, the frequency is rising. And with the frequency, consciousness is expanding. Suddenly it has more capacity to understand and to think more deeply, more clearly. And suddenly our priorities change, right? Our values change, our attitude change. But because of our free will, we need to go freely and consciously through this process of conscious evolution. That's why these solar flares are so important during this time. And many people are feeling them quite intensely. But also what you may experience during this time, more and more synchronicities are happening to you, because the invisible forces are guiding you through this process of purification, the white phase, right? And as many forces are guiding you through this process, you are noticing synchronicities that are representing certain spiritual signs to you. So for those who are more used to repetitive numbers, you will be seeing more of these numbers at this time. For those who are more into angel type of guidance and have some beliefs around that, you will be seeing maybe feathers during this time, or certain synchronistic events that are reminding you of the spiritual significance of your evolution. Because what is spiritual is not something that comes from a certain philosophy or belief systems. Spirit is a force that unifies life. And to be spiritual means to be standing and walking and being in that force. Constant awareness of this force. You actually identify yourself with that force, and you carry your identity, or your persona, more like a vehicle of expression. That's what happens. But to make this shift, you have to make a relationship with the spirit world. You have to build a relationship with your inner quietness so you can start hearing it. And it's not about hearing voices or seeing light beings. Well, depends of your senses. Some people have more evolved senses in these areas, and other people don't have this kind of evolved senses. It's not something is good and something is bad, and you would rather wish you would have like what somebody else has. It's just about getting to know your inner quietness better, getting to know that darkness better. When you close your eyes and you learn to calm down your brain waves, your nervous system. Why it is important? Because that's how you stop reacting to your life circumstances. And that is really powerful, because solar flares deeply affect your nervous system, deeply affect your organs in the body. And if you're constantly under stress, it may cause some stress, right? It may trigger you. But if you learn to calm down, it will actually start feeding you with light. All the wounds that you have from past traumas will actually open doors so the light can enter your soul, right? Like Rumi said, that wounds in your heart are places through which light can enter your soul. And that's what is happening. So this is the natural process. It's not something to force. It's something to just experience, to open up and receive. So have certain practices during this time that allow you to connect with nature. Everything is nature. You are nature. Don't be so identified with problems and with your story that you're telling to yourself, like who you are, but rather open up and find yourself in simplicity. Find yourself in simplicity. Like do things that make you feel alive, that make you feel like you belong to life, that make you feel well grounded, like more time under the sun, maybe close to water if that is what helps you. To me, it definitely does. I like to go close to a river and empty my mind there. I'm imagining like I'm placing my thoughts onto the flowing water, the flowing stream, until I become empty, and the white noise of the water really helps to calm your brain down. If you're meditating, you may deeply connect with that inner quietness, and in that inner quietness your intuition speaks really loudly. So quietness will teach you how to flourish. Why? Because a flower is not thinking itself into flourishing. It just does, because that's how nature made it to be, and nature made you to be flourishing. And as Aristotle said, flourishing is the highest form of goodness for a human being. To flourish, what it means. To flourish means that you really feel alive. And when you feel alive, you feel creative. And when you feel creative, you feel like you have endless potential, endless energy, endless power. And when you feel this endless power, you don't see problems as limitations anymore. You don't see what's happening in your life as something negative. You see it as something to be transformed, like a scientist who's studying chemistry. He's not seeing chemistry as, certain limitations of matter. He's seeing options how to connect one element with another and use some intention and consciousness while combining these different elements, and he becomes an alchemist, right? That's how we find supplements, for example, or whatever that can be helpful if it's done with the right intention. So in some sense, you have to become a scientist of your life, and you have to start looking at yourself as a laboratory. That's how ancient alchemists were describing their bodies. I am working in my laboratory. That's how they said. And in your laboratory, then you notice there's some activity in my mind. There's some activity in the chemistry of my body in sense of emotions. And you recognize that the chemistry is the byproduct of activity in the mind. How you think is how you feel. Isn't that so? You notice that. That's how epigenetics, the science of epigenetics, is teaching us. Each thought already creates a chemical signal in the brain that then sends this signal to cells in our body, and all the signals are felt through emotions. So whatever you feel emotionally is because of the activity in your brain. And during these times of intense energy, when sun is generating these solar flares, there's light traveling to our planet, and in that light there's information. A sun is a conscious being, a spiritual being, so you are a conscious, a spiritual being. And there's what's happening is an exchange of information. When you open up, you receive, right? And you can't receive if you're too poisoned with too many thoughts. If your mind is full, you can't identify what's coming to you as a message. So what is really helpful during this time is to work on quieting down your mind. Quieting down your mind. It can be a meditation, it can be writing. I'm writing a lot these times, journaling a lot, I'm writing a book. So find something that helps you to express yourself. What may happen spontaneously, you may start channeling. If that happens, don't go crazy. Go grateful. Be grateful. And you will notice actually something is speaking through you to you. And you will notice, oh, I'm actually communicating with the source. It's really easy once you open up and become more familiar with that. It's not that you start getting some complex information. You just start getting something you actually already knew deep inside your heart, but you've been too attached to ideas and beliefs that you never believed what you feel is actually real and true for you. And sun is reminding you, especially right now as it is in the zodiac sign of Scorpio, it is reminding you have to transform your present beliefs into an open mind. As long as you're attached to certain belief systems, you may misunderstand what's happening to you spiritually. In Tibetan traditions, there's a saying that is really interesting, and it says, to those who think they know everything, may happen that they will not be able to understand anything. To those who think they know everything, may happen that they will not be able to understand anything. So, the greatest thing you can do right now is to open up and to let go of whatever you think that is true, and try to in tune with yourself to such a degree that you start to feel the truth. When you say, I feel this is the truth, not because you've heard it, not because I said so, but because you feel it. That's where you experience this source of discernment, right? You start to feel. Because most people say, well, I'm in tune with my intuition, but actually intuition can only be well understood when body is well balanced. What I mentioned before with these two important virtues. Your body needs to be balanced. Your body needs to be strong, it needs to be healthy, and it needs to be grounded. It's your vessel, your vehicle. It needs to be well taken care of. When it is well taken care of, that's when you can actually discernment from your thoughts to recognize your intuition. Is this my fear or is this my intuition? Only when you balance yourself, ground yourself, make yourself a stable pillar, your intuition will become really, really well heard. And in a search for this balance and stability, you will find a lifestyle that fits you. And that's something that is really important to know, because it took me a lot of time to recognize this. It is simple, but it's not simple and easy to get to there. I found out I need to have certain routines in my life that allow me to have well balanced body, working out, eating healthy, eating light food especially, drinking plenty of water, alkaline water if possible, and having light thoughts, seeing everything as it is perfect. And when I look into my future, I see the best possible outcome. And when I'm thinking about what is finding me, I think that I deserve the best. And I know that the best is finding me. I am open for the best, so whatever is finding me is the best for me. And I want you to really dig deeper and understand this. If I deserve the best, whatever is finding me is the best for me. Sometimes to trigger me so I can heal something, and sometimes to teach me something I had no idea that I'm still projecting into the world. Only so I can become a little bit more righteous, a little bit more honest, a little bit more truthful. And isn't that an energy of abundance? Because when I look the nature, it's righteous. So we have to study the nature. If we want to become more abundant, we have to study the nature. How nature, what's the energy when you come close to a tree? Do you feel safe there? Do you feel pleasant around it? And when you recognize that energy of a tree, for example, or of a flower, that's the energy you should vibrate in. That's what sun is reminding you right now. When you feel light, when you feel pleasant, when you feel peaceful, you feel at peace with yourself, with your past, with your future. You feel well grounded. You feel flexible. You feel resilient. You feel like whatever comes to you is how it's supposed to happen. Tree is not choosing the right weather. It's open for whatever. because nothing can affect it. If it's well flexible, nothing can affect it. And if it does, well, it needed to happen like that. Maybe to teach other trees how to be even more adaptable, even more flexible. That's what happens when we study the nature. And once we recognize what's the energy behind those activities, that's the energy of abundance. Because if you ask me, I see infinite abundance in nature. It has enough. We are the ones that are poisoning it and taking away from there, taking, abundance from there for our own purposes. But nature itself is complete abundance. And all we need to learn is to read the energy. So eventually, through practice, we can embody it. And if we work with nature, nature will support us. Nature will work through us. And when nature works through us, we are healthy, we are strong, we are resilient, and we are great. So, my friends, I hope you found something valuable today. I'm sending you lots of love, blessings, strength, and power. Have a beautiful day, and I hope you've enjoyed in today's painting, The Sun. To anyone who would love to support my art, we are running a unique sale, 20 off to all of my art. So go there and check it out. The link is in the description of this video. Thank you so much. Don't forget to hit the like button, write a comment of gratitude or anything that resonates the most from this video with you. Let me know, and till next time, one love.